Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Katawa Shoujo Part 5. In the last part, someone ran into us in the hallway and knocked us down. Today, we reveal the culprit. Ouch. Opening my eyes, I see a pair of saucer-like green eyes looking up at me. They belong to the perpetrator, a short girl who bumped into me and has now fallen down onto the hallway floor. She wears a PE uniform and a very worried frown. The former strikes me as a rather strange thing to have on during a lunch break. More striking than that, though, is that she doesn't have legs. Or she does, but they are not flesh and bone. Her pale and very much flesh and bone thighs ends in shins and feet made of some black metallic or plastic-like material. They look disturbingly artificial and unnatural. It almost makes me forget that my chest is hurting. The girl winces a little, rubs her nose, and jumps up.
Oh man, hey, are you alright? I'm sorry about that, really. I wasn't looking where I was going and you just came out of nowhere. Sorry.
She's looking really apologetic in the hurt puppy way of looking apologetic. I quickly forget about being angry or anything, since hurt puppies are my weak spot. It's okay, don't worry about it. Ouch. I say that, but there's a stinging pain growing in my chest, and I know that this is about the biggest possible danger for my condition. Don't overexert yourself. Don't forget your medication, and most of all, don't get hit in the chest. I try to rub my solar plexus to chase the pain away, holding my breath in an attempt to hear my heartbeat. It seems normal.
Hey, should I get a nurse?
The worried, high-pitched voice of the girl snaps me out of it. I stare at her for a few seconds dumbfounded, until I realized that I probably looked worse off than I really was. Doubled over myself and looking all tense. Damn, I'm overly worried about my heart. No need, I'm fine. Managing to say something in response, I pull myself upright, feeling my sore ribs one last time, and take a deep breath. She just knocked the wind out of me, big time, but it's nothing more than that.
You sure you're okay? I hit you pretty hard.
It's okay. I said I was fine, and nothing's broken. No harm done.
That's good, Hisao, what happened?
She's not quite up to speed for obvious reasons, but she sounds very worried. More than what the situation deserves, really. Someone just bumped into me, nothing serious, just winded.
Sorry, it's my fault. I was just going to get some stuff and I was in kind of a hurry.
That someone here is Emmy, isn't it? The little girl coughs quietly and shuffles her plastic or metallic feet, looking down at them before saying anything.
Hey, Lilly, Hanako.
I guess the girls know each other.
Do please try to be more careful. You might be sturdy enough to endure these sorts of accidents, but there are people who aren't.
The girl blushes and starts to fidget nervously like a little child caught misbehaving. It's so cute, I find myself smiling.
I know that. I was just... I gotta go! Teacher will have my head. I promised help with printouts, but I went running instead. Sorry, but I've got to change and everything.
Before any of us could say a thing, Emmy has already bolted away, leaving the hallway eerily quiet. Does that kind of thing happen often around here?
There are more rules in Yamaku than usual for running in corridors. But that rarely stops Emmy, it seems.
She shakes her head weakly and offers a slight, composed smile.
I don't think there's anything we can do to stop her, I'm afraid. Shall we be off then?
Lilly heads off along the hallway and Hanako hurries after her. The route to the room the two use for tea is fairly simple to retrace, being still fresh in my mind from yesterday. Lilly and Hanako quickly go about the business of making lunch. Before I could even open my small bag of food, Lily's busying herself with their thermos and tea bags as Hanako is setting out both their lunch boxes. So, is this what you meant by coming here almost every day?
Yes. Hanako and I usually have lunch here. It suits both of us, so we end up using this room regularly.
After seeing Hanako's reactions to me over the past couple of days, I could understand why that is a boon. That and Lily being able to get some quiet away from her class as well. I take my seat last, after Lily's poured the tea for us and sits down. The more time I spend with these two girls, the more I think they're a perfect foil to Misha and Shizune. Even without a voice, Shizune is direct and brash, and Misha seems to get along with everyone. On the other hand, Lily is soft-spoken and relaxed, while Hanako seems to be the shyest girl I've ever met.
So, how are you faring in Yamaku, Hisao? You seemed a bit flustered before.
Apart from getting lost every now and again and being crash-tackled outside my classroom, fine, I guess.
You looked pretty hurt before. Are you really okay?
For a brief moment, I considered telling Hanako and Lily about my condition, but then I hold it back. I can't tell why, but for some reason I feel uncomfortable talking about it to these relative strangers, even if they have been pretty friendly. Yeah, it's nothing. I was just a bit startled. Judging from the two girls' expressions, I don't think that they're buying it, but in what I assume is their way of respecting my privacy, they don't press the matter. I guess that is one of the unwritten rules around here. Don't ask. Even if people's conditions are obvious, like Hanako's, there's still bound to be a story involved. Everyone has things that they don't feel comfortable speaking about, and I think everyone here recognizes that. So, how long have you been in this school? You both seem to know your way around pretty well.
Well, I've been here since the start of high school, but only moved into the dormitories a year ago.
Hanako joined at the start of high school as well, and moved to the dormitories when she did, if memory serves me right.
That's right, since high school.
So you've known each other since then?
Since I moved, yes. Hanako lives next door to me, so it's only natural, right? Right.
Yeah, of course. Living next to someone is probably reason enough to befriend them, though I'm guessing that Lily's blindness played a part in it as well. I can't imagine Hanako easily making friends with someone who has to deliberately avoid looking at her scars. With the immediate conversation dried up, we started to eat our lunch. It isn't long before the bells are signaling the end of the break. Like me, the girls pack up their lunches as efficiently as they set them out.
I guess I'd better be off. Are you going to go with Hisao, Hanako?
Hanako looks up at me, and for a second I can see that she is considering skipping class. Maybe just to avoid walking to the classroom with me.
Yes.
I don't know what to think of it. Hanako really is delicate to the point of breaking if looked at in the wrong way. It makes me a bit nervous too, but I push the feeling aside, trying to be as natural as I can. We should hurry then. Class has already started by the sound of it. Lily gives a nod of farewell as she bends down to take her cane, Hanako and I filing out before her. We walk quietly down the empty halls to our respective classes. As we reach the door to Lily's 3-2 classroom, she turns towards me.
Hisao, thank you for sharing lunch with us today.
My pleasure, Lily. And with that, we part ways, Lily entering her classroom and leaving Hanako and I to make off to our own. She's still looking like she wants to run away. So, do you really want to go back to class now?
Yes.
Okay then. I feel like I should say something more to her, but it's hard to come up with anything that would be appropriate and safe enough. And Lily was right. The more time we spend out here, the more explaining we have to do. I open the rear door to the class and walk in. The teacher looks up at me and opens his mouth to say something. However, as Hanako follows me in and closes the door, he simply nods to us and continues his lecture. This is the third time that Hanako has had her truancy practically ignored. There's definitely something going on here. We make our way to our seats, and I notice that Misha and Shizune are both missing as well. I wonder if it is some form of informal agreement with the staff, or if it's a perk afforded to the unique students of this school. Trying to make as little disturbance as I can, I extract the relevant textbooks from my bag and start catching up. The class goes on quietly. The teacher seems like an okay person despite the weird first impression I got, and the material is relatively interesting. However, the way he teaches is really bizarre. It's as if he expects that everyone is a natural genius. When the final bell sounds, I realize that there is still a lot of time left in the day, and I'm left wondering what to do. It's odd. At the hospital, I had 24 hours a day of free time, but here, filling the considerably shorter hours feels difficult. Everyone else leaves, and I'm left alone with the teacher. Mutou is examining the assignment sheets we are working on earlier, marking them with a red ball pen. Raising his eyes from his papers briefly, he notices me and furrows his brow. What is it, Nakai? I jump at him, addressing me, but I guess it's natural to spark some conversation since there's nobody else around. Nothing. Thinking about what I'd do after school. The teacher slowly puts the cap on the pen he is holding and arranges his papers into a stack, clacking it against the desk twice. He seems very methodical, and for a brief moment I'm reminded of Shizune, but the teacher is more unhurried and relaxed, much more routine. You have no plans? No, I consider joining a club, but don't know what kind of club would interest me. Go observe a meeting of someone else's club. Might pick your interest. I guess. But I don't know how to continue from there. Mutou looks at me in a way that makes me quickly want to take the words back to avoid a conversation. But I can't, so I have to forge ahead. I just don't know how to deal with people. I mean, the other students. I'm talking to people and everything, so it's not that I'd be isolated or anything. I just don't know what to think about the disabilities. It's like it feels that I'm being impolite if I pay attention to them, and it's weird to ignore them. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. The teacher scratches his cheek absent-mindedly, looking very unresponsive. These things are only an issue if you make them one. You can talk normally with someone even if they are blind or something. Try to look behind the superficial. There's not a single student here who isn't just a normal kid behind whatever they might seem at first glance. He says the same thing as Yuko did. I know they're right, but it's hard. How could you not consider, for example, Shizune's deafness, when the only way to communicate with her is to talk through Misha? Or Hanako, it's not like you could ignore her face. But I'm interrupted by the door of the classroom suddenly slamming open.
Teacher!
Misha crashes in, hands straight in enthusiastic greeting, her voice loud and lively enough to wake the dead from their graves. She starts towards the teacher's desk with her bouncing step, hands energetically swinging with the rhythm. Mutou, visibly dismayed at the interruption, and Misha in general, slumps in his chair. Mikado! Misha stops in her tracks and looks around cluelessly, as if she's sensing from his tone that something's wrong, but has no idea what.
Yes?
We have talked about volume control before.
Yes!
But she doesn't lower her voice at all, and the teacher just rubs his eyes. So, what is it?
We need help. We are running out of supplies for the festival stands. This is a distress.
She waves a pink slip of paper she's holding around. So, go get more supplies from the art room. What's the problem with that?
Plywood is always the problem. Last time we wanted more, there was only a little, but that time we just took it all and went with that. Now there's like none left there. So do you know where there is some?
I don't understand. How would I know?
She-chan, I mean the president thought that a teacher would know if there is plywood. Was she wrong?
Mutou looks like he is in great pain, frowning with his entire essence, and Misha doesn't get it at all. Looking at the two of them communicate is terrible, like looking at a man being tortured by drilling his skull open while blasting pop music at full volume at the same time. I'm afraid I have no idea if there is any plywood in the school, let alone where it would be if there was any.
What should I do?
Perhaps try to find Mr. Nomiya? I'm quite sure he would know where to find everything you need. You'd have to pry them from his cold dead hands, but that's a different matter.
I don't have time, we are so busy.
She holds her head with both of her hands, looking as despairing as is possible for a person like her. Without even noticing, she crumples the note she's holding against her hair.
I shouldn't even be fetching these things. There is so much to do and we are falling behind the schedule.
Mutou looks at her gravely and then suddenly smiles. Smiling doesn't really fit his face. I think it'd be better if he didn't. I wonder if you can get some temporary help. He switches to staring at me, focusedly, with a hard expression, as if trying to say, go make some friends. Yeah, I guess I can give you a hand.
You can? Thanks, He-chan. You are really nice.
She pauses, does a double take, and then points at me with her finger, yelping. And looking very puzzled.
Come to think of it, what's He-chan doing here? Class is over, you should be having fun.
We just had a little chat.
Oh no, it's not detention, is it? Are you in trouble, He-chan?
No, I'm not.
Is He-chan in trouble, teacher?
No, he's not. Mutou sighs deeply. And I feel that I have to help Misha to get her off the teacher's back. So, what do you need?
Here's the list. I can try to find the plywood from somewhere if there's none in the art room.
She offers me the note she's holding. I take it, hesitating a bit. I said I'd help you, but this has no implications on whether I'm joining the council or not.
Still, thanks, He-chan. Try to be quick. We are in a stall building streak now. We must hurry, hurry, hurry!
She bounces out of the classroom, leaving me and the teacher looking at each other with something that feels like a silent agreement. Well, there you have it, Nakai. You have something to do now. Please don't sound so smug. Looking at the list with a number of items ranging from paint to plywood, all written with small, neat handwriting that is undoubtedly Shizune's, I have a sigh. I'll be going then. Waving the long list limply at the teacher, I exit to the hallway. The classrooms closest to ours are designated belonging to classes 3-1 and 3-2 on the right side, and 3-4 on the left side, each door looking exactly the same. Further down the corridor, still with the identical doors, are rooms that I didn't think were used for classes. I guess the art room is not a classroom as such. I carefully push open the furthest door and peek in. It's a classroom, but it seems rather badly kept or not in use. Am I in the right place? Desks and chairs are all around the room, a thin layer of dust settled on them. There are some easels in the corner, so at least this looks like the right place. The room is flushed in sunlight from the big windows, shadows creeping all over the desks. Specks of dust are dancing in the stagnant air, making the beams of light almost visible. Bleh. Jokingly, I call into the empty room. Anybody? Something catches my eye and I stop mid-sentence. Oh, goody, it's Rin. Sitting on a desk is a short-haired girl, curiously wearing a boy's uniform, with a fork between her toes, a morsel of food stuck firmly on the end. This odd way of dining seems to be caused by her apparent lack of hands, but her presence here is what takes me aback even more. How did I miss her before? She's sitting in a corner very still, but I still somehow took her as part of the furnishing or a statue at first glance. I'm not being too observant today as a whole. The girl seems to be frozen in place, staring at me with her huge eyes like a rabbit in headlights. She's staring at me, her mouth wide open, ready to accept the fork. I'm staring at her, my mouth wide open, suddenly remembering I didn't finish my sentence and trying to think if I should. This weird stalemate keeps us both stunned into silence, punctuated only by the wall clock ticking rhythmically. Hello. The girl stuffs the fork full in her mouth, and is now staring at me expectantly while chewing. This is a bit awkward. Hello, I was told to pick up some supplies from here. For some festival stalls, I think. I didn't think there would be someone here. There isn't. That's why I came here too. She picks up another forkful. Doesn't that mean you're here then? She raises her eyebrow as if she was suspecting my observation was false. You are pretty observant. I guess it does, but who are you? This girl is pretty straightforward, isn't she? I'm Nakai. Hisao Nakai. I just transferred in on Monday. I'm Rin. Tezuka. Rin Tezuka. I won't shake hands with you, but at least we know who we are now. That's very nice. Her deadpan manner of talking makes it hard to determine whether she's joking about shaking hands or not. It kind of bothers me. Joking about these matters doesn't feel appropriate at all. While I'm trying to figure what's appropriate and whether this girl is, she seems to have lost interest in me and is now gazing yearningly back at her food. Can I continue my lunch? If you don't mind me, I won't mind you. If you need to get your stuff, the supplies are at the back. Go right ahead, but lunch? School's already over for the day. What word would you use then? There is no word for a meal you eat after lunch, but before dinner, right? It bothers me very much too, but I don't really know what I should say. I don't think you are supposed to eat a meal between lunch and dinner to begin with. But I'm hungry now and my delicious boxed lunch would go to waste otherwise. I have curry. It's very delicious. With much decisiveness, Rin once again picks up the fork between her toes, and with at least as much impoliteness, she points it straight at me. So, Nakai, what brings you to this place? Like I said, I was told to look for these things. No, the school. From outside, you look fine. Is your problem inside? I come to a full stop, opening my mouth, but not getting a word out. I can guess. I'm good at guessing. Better than most people. Rin cuts me off before I can answer her question or skirt around it somehow. I don't know which I would have done. I froze in front of this issue again. I haven't even told anyone here about my condition, or maybe it's only because it hasn't really come up. I do get the feeling that not making issues of this is part of the social code here, as the teacher said. I wonder if the people here could relate. Probably not any better than any normal person could. I can't relate to Shizune's circumstances or Lily's either. Naturally, while I go through this in my head, Rin keeps considering what my condition could be, with an overly contemplative look on her face. She puts her fork between her lips and leans back, looking at the ceiling as if the answer was written up there. A beam of light illuminates her face from the window side, creating a mask of dark shadow on the other side. I don't think it's anything in your head, and something in your guts would be boringly ordinary. Like this lunch of mine, and less delicious. The problem must be in your pants. This messed up Sherlock Holmes kind of statement and the sheer lack of tact it was delivered with catches me completely off guard. I think I might have reeled back even physically as Rin's eyes widened in revelation and astonishment. So I was right. There's something wrong with your tackle, isn't there? Still partially in shock, but recognizing the need to reply something, I spit out the first thing that I could think of. No! Nothing like that! I have a heart problem, arrhythmia. I said it. More like blurted it out, but I said it. The girl in front of me purses her lips together and glowers at me, looking very disappointed. How boring. Trouble in the past would have been much more scandalous. What's with this reaction? I'm sorry to let you down. I forgive you. Just, I collect people and a person with, you know, that kind of problem would have been really great. Collect people? People with different problems. Huh. So you just, like, go around asking people what's wrong with them? Pretty much. I see. With little left to say, Rin resumes her lunch and the conversation dies away, but I keep thinking about what was said. It's the first time I told anyone else about my condition. All the other people have either known about it already or heard about it from someone else. Or didn't need to know about it like every other student here so far. Should I have told it as a natural part of introductions? Is it expected of me? Hi, I'm Hisao. I have a very serious heart condition. Is that how I'm supposed to go around introducing myself from now on? As if our disabilities would define us? What a disgusting thought. Or maybe this Tezuka girl just has an unnatural interest in such things. As I walk to the back of the room to pick up the items on Misha's list, a chance opens to study Rin from the corner of my eye. Her hair is a burnt auburn, almost orange, and cropped short. Long hair would probably be impossible with no arms. The boy's uniform and the lack of arms make her look very thin, almost scrawny. She is not particularly pretty except for her murky green eyes which flicker restlessly from below her short bangs, even when she eats. The distance and the shadows make it seem like they don't reflect sunlight at all, but instead absorb all of it within them like deep wells. She moves her feet almost as deftly as a normal person would use their arms. However, I can see how this sight could discomfort people, especially while eating. It makes me feel a bit uncomfortable at least. I hesitate to think about the word unnatural, but it's too late now, isn't it? I keep searching the cabins and shelves for Misha's things, but after enough time passes, the silence grows too uncomfortable, so I try to force some conversation out of this strange girl. So, do you always eat alone and this late, or do you get the occasional visitor? Visitors, maybe you are my first occasional visitor, but I don't always eat alone either. Sometimes I eat with a certain person on the roof if she's not horsing around. Horsing? She likes to do sports. Oh. And that's all I can think of to say. Both of us fall silent again as Rin forks the last bits of her meal to her mouth. I look down at my haul and double-check it with Misha's list. It seems I have everything except plywood. So I think I have all the things now. That's very nice for you. Don't feel obliged to stay. I was about to take a nap anyway. You need to do whatever you are going to do with that stuff anyway, right? Or perhaps you like to watch girls sleeping. I'm not sure what to make of this, but Rin looks serious. Even if I did, I think I have to be going. I'll catch you around, Tezuka. You can call me Rin. I feel that our relationship is at this point good enough to warrant this much. I was already turning to make my exit, but she draws me back in. Fine. Then I'm Hisao. Then you are. Rin looks at me hard in the eyes, but that intimidating feeling you get when someone stares at you isn't there. It's like she's actually not looking at me at all. She blinks a couple of times, and I can't figure out why a pause like this just popped between us out of nowhere. See you later, Hisao. There's something like a tiny smile there on her face, maybe. I quietly back out of the room. As I shut the door in front of my face, I whisper to myself, "What an intriguing person." From inside, I hear a muffled sing-song voice. "I heard that."
What did she hear?
I jump at the sudden appearance of Misha, who I had not heard approaching despite the completely empty hallway. "Damn it, girl! Private space, please!" Somehow, she had gotten the jumping distance of me without making a sound. Creepy. It briefly reminds me of Kenji's nutty theory about a global feminist conspiracy, but I pushed that thought aside. Shizune, standing slightly behind Misha, looks aloof, as she couldn't have heard the remark that drew Misha's attention, but Misha is visibly excited.
No, wait. More importantly, who is in there? There's no club meetings today.
She tries to curiously peek past me, even though the door prevents her from seeing anyway. "What are you doing here?"
You took so long that we had to come check what's wrong. That's no good, He-chan.
She wags her finger at me scoldingly.
I found plywood, but everything else is still missing because you are tardy.
"Oh, sorry. I got the things here. I was just going to bring them."
I think you were up to some mischief, He-chan. Who was in there with you? I wonder.
Misha signed something quickly to Shizune, pointing at her own ear a couple of times. Shizune immediately pushes her way past me and opens the door into the classroom I just left. I can only imagine the shock she is experiencing. With Shizune's diligence and attitude, the insolence of daring to deface school property by sleeping on top of it must be too much to bear. And indeed, she stares at Rin, frozen in place apart from the slight but noticeable trembling of her shoulders, from suppressed rage, I'm sure. Instead of blowing up, Shizune just takes a few deep breaths, adjusts her glasses, and slams the door shut, turning the sign furiously at Misha. Whoa! Maybe she did blow up, but I can't understand it. She shoots a very loaded stare at me, too. As if it was somehow my fault that Rin is sleeping on one of the tables. I hope she's not getting any funny ideas about the reason of my tardiness. Hello. Rin's voice comes from the other side of the door and takes it a few eye blinks to realize she might have trouble opening it. I open the door to find Rin directly behind it, looking at us with a half-interested, half-sleepy face. Hello.
Miss Tezuka, what do you think you were doing? You absolutely are not permitted to use school property for such, disgraceful activity.
It sure is suddenly very crowded in here. I didn't know I was this popular. It's hard to say whether she's happy or unhappy about this turn of events. At any rate, she ignores Shizune and Misha's scolding, so they have no choice but to drop the issue. Shizune taps Misha's shoulder, points at Rin, and makes some quick signs.
Popularity aside, please don't do that anymore. Anyway, how is your project going? Will it be done for the festival?
Rin looks at them blankly, apparently at ease under the pressure Shizune's cold stare is putting her on her. I keep wondering about that myself, too.
And?
We'll think about it harder. As Misha signs her reply to Shizune, her face turns into an unsatisfied frown.
Miss Tezuka, please try to take this seriously. It'll be a disaster if the wall looks like someone threw up their lunch onto it.
Rin nods assertively. We'll think more seriously. Misha actually giggles at that, but Shizune doesn't, not even after translation. She just shakes her head, takes the materials from me, and takes off with Misha in tow. Rin frowns thoughtfully as she looks after the retreating student council duo. How rude. It's true, though. I must finish my project before the weekend. There will be dire consequences if I don't. The end of the world as we know it. Like weekends usually are, but more dire. Much more dire. Maybe I'll postpone my nap to unforeseen future. I am about to ask what project she has and what are these apocalyptic consequences, but she walks back into the art classroom. Since you have nothing to do, would you give me a hand? This paint can doesn't fit into my bag, but I need it. She kicks lightly at a huge can of paint that's lying on the floor next to the table she was sitting and sleeping on. Alrighty, folks. I think we'll continue helping Rin in the next part, so stay tuned for Let's Play Katawa Shoujo Part 6, when we'll aid Rin with whatever she needs and help her finish her project, whatever that might be. Anyways, later, peoples!